Really? First Sunday back and that's all you get, full-fledged? Let's try that again. Good morning. Grateful. I heard that singing and I was expecting something more, y'all. I mean, that singing was amazing. How many of you want to skip the sermon and just keep singing? Bless your hearts. That's a preacher's best friend to say that. James chapter 2. If you'll make your way to James chapter 2, we're going to be there. Come up this hill for this youth rally on Friday night, and there was a Ferris wheel, and there was all this neat stuff and animals everywhere. I thought, these guys know how to put on a youth rally. That's amazing. You smelled the funnel cake, heard Colin Ray singing. Who does that kind of stuff? Well, it turns out it was a county fair. But anyway, it was a neat thing as I was coming up here. And we still have RNC from Conway, still have Hillcrest from Paragould. Who else is anybody? Those two, the groups that stayed? Liberty. Liberty's it? Where? Yeah, okay, they got you. Yeah, sorry about that. Liberty is they're a great church. I just want you to know. Is Heber still here? Okay, I thought Poplar Bluff might still be here. Listen, you had a great group of people, and I know one of the reasons why is because Sean really beat the bushes to get people here. I got to tell you, you have a tremendous youth minister, and he deserves a praise. Hold just a second. That was a raise. I'm sorry, I couldn't read your writing. I'm telling you, I've been at youth rallies for years, haven't been to one like this in a long time, where it was so well planned and you had activities of interaction with each other like this. It just was fabulous, and I've never seen so much work put into it. And I got to tell you, whatever it takes, keep this youth rally. The church needs youth rallies like this like crazy. This is no little thing. I want you to know this is no little thing. This is a big deal in the faith and the life of young people. Keep it up. I know the effort it takes, the cost it is, and the work it is, but it has been a tremendous experience. I was writing in my journal this morning because I had extra time, and I just kept writing about the impressive stuff. The booklets were cool. The interactive games were amazing. It took, as I said, a lot of planning to do that. You're just to be commended for the insight, the foresight to know that this is really, really important. The only other thing I knew about you is that Tony McNabb attends here. And so I know the gospel needs to be preached here a lot. So I thought, I'm not going to pass up that opportunity to do that. We went to college together, love him. He was crazy, and he has calmed down just a little bit. But anyway, I'm grateful to be here. We're going to dig in James chapter 2. We're going to finish off not finish off because the benefits are going to continue going. We're going to end formally this youth rally on difference. We're going to be talking about faith that makes a difference. In order for faith to make a difference, it must produce a different life. So you have to be different to make a difference. That's the point we're making this morning. And I'm going to give you it's not a physical. I'll show you a picture, this next one. Yeah, a theory of a physical. You know, if you're an older person, you know what a physical is. If you're a younger person who plays sports, you might know what a physical is. The idea is you go to a doctor and he starts, measuring different signals of the body, vital signs and stuff. Because the idea is if the body is kind of weakening or going wrong, it sends off signals. And if you get these signals soon enough, you can divert it from becoming something serious. That's the idea behind a physical. The body sends off signals, things aren't quite right. Well, I'm not going to give a physical, I'm not qualified to do that, but I am going to give a spiritual this morning from James chapter 2. The idea behind a spiritual is there are some clues your life will give off if you're weakening in your spiritual life. There are certain things, if you look at your life, that will start giving out little signals that you need to tend to your spiritual life. And James gives a spiritual in James chapter 2 where we are. And he gives it to a group of people who would swear that they're doing great. They would say our faith is strong, we're vibrant, we're alive. But by the time James gets through with them, they're huffing and puffing and on their way to the ER because they didn't realize there was something wrong at all. And he leaves behind then this battery of tests that we can use to also gauge our spiritual lives too. You need to ask these questions every now and then, maybe even on a daily basis as you plan out your day. We start with James chapter 2, beginning verse 14. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed, lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? And so by faith itself, if it does not have works, is dead. The first question in this battery of questions is your faith useful? Useful. Does your faith make a difference in the lives of other people? If your faith doesn't make a difference in the lives of others, then your faith is not making a difference. That's the theory behind this. Because so many people talk about your personal relationship with God. I want a personal relationship. You will not just have a personal relationship with Jesus. You will have a social relationship with Jesus. He makes you, faith by its nature, looks out toward other people and finds a way to bless them. Because it is very possible. If you've ever traveled much to different churches, it's possible to walk into your church and worship and never interact with anybody else. Isn't that unbelievable? It is possible to study your Bible and know the word backwards and forwards, but it never benefits anyone else through you. You can put those earbuds in your ears and listen to Christian music and never benefit anybody else. It's possible. That's a personal relationship. Memorize the verses. Hear the sermons. It's like watching a commercial on TV and feeling bad about the starving children of Africa, and because I feel bad, that's faithfulness. No, it's not. Go to hear a sermon, it steps on your toes, but it doesn't prompt any action. That's not faith. Not serving other people will destroy your faith. On the other hand, nothing revitalizes it. Nothing stimulates faithfulness more than reaching out, serving other people. The judgment scene of Matthew chapter 25, you saw someone hungry and fed them. You saw someone needing a visit and you visited them. You saw someone and you got out of your own life and you, because of your faith in God, entered someone else's. That's faith acting. That's a social thing. That's faith being useful. Too many people say, "Why is my faith weakening?" and they look within themselves for the answer. That's not where the answer is. It's outside. You want the best thing to do when you're a little bit funky in your faith? Go visit someone and encourage them. Get out of your life. Serve someone else. A few years ago, I was in Des Moines, Iowa, doing a thing with a church up there. The largest church, which is not all that large, but in Iowa, church is weak. But this church is a good, vibrant church in Des Moines. And as I was visiting there, I met this girl. They were kind of bragging on her a little bit. She was kind of new. She was going to the University of Iowa, and she was on the volleyball team. That's impressive to see someone who's on a university volleyball team. She had become a Christian 1 year before, somewhere down in Tennessee, and she had moved off to the University of Iowa to start her college career. So here she is, a new Christian, away from home, starting college, and the first thing she does is find a church. That impresses me. That impresses me. Y'all, when you move away, don't move away and don't go somewhere. Move away and find your family. Your family's everywhere. And so when you go off to college and all that, go find a church. You look around and find the right one for you or whatever, one that fits you better in the congregations that are available. But when you do, dig in and be family. And that's what this girl, who's a new Christian, starter on the volleyball team, off in college for the first time, she comes to this church and she sees and hears announced this list that says there's a new family, or there's a family of the church who just had twins and they're pretty overwhelmed. Can you imagine? I'm sure some of you have. I have too, but I didn't have them at the same time. That's a little bit different. And so they're kind of overwhelmed. They said, we're going to provide meals for them for the next 2 or 3 weeks. This freshman, away from home for the first time, new Christian, has no idea, has never prepared a full meal for a family before. She has no idea how to do it, but she signs up. Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. She signs up, and then she calls a widow of the church and says, I don't know how to cook a meal exactly, the whole thing, but if you will give me what I need to do, I'm going to bring the ingredients over, and I want you to help me figure out how to make this meal and take it over to the family. Blows me away. A freshman in college, right away from home for the first time, a new Christian, and she does this. And I go up to her and I say, will you marry my son? That's what that's a faith that livens up, y'all. That's a vibrant faith, a faith that's alive, that's useful to other people and expanding the kingdom. That's faith that makes a difference, because it's a different kind of faith. I don't expect college freshmen away from home to do that, but her faith made her. Serving others is this sign. Your faith is alive and well. Just checking up on somebody because you love God and you love people, that's faith in action. Just sending a card of encouragement because you believe in God and because you love people, that is reaching out. Just a smile or a kind word at Walmart because you believe in God and love people is reaching out. Bless people. First sign of life. The first test is, yesterday, from the time you got up to the time you went to bed, what difference did your faith make to anybody else? Tomorrow when you wake up, say to yourself, today I want my faith to make a difference in someone else's life. However small, make it make a difference. Test number 2. Beginning verse 18, just a couple of verses. He says, but someone's going to say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works. I'll show you my faith by my works. You believe God is one? Good, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. This is an interesting thing, isn't it? When what you believe makes no difference visibly in your life, demons believe in God. Demons believe Jesus is Lord. So we make that confession before baptism. Listen, that confession isn't all that revolutionary. Demons believe Jesus. They know Jesus is Lord. They know it right now. The problem is it doesn't make any difference in their life. And if you're a person who believes Jesus is Lord, but it makes no real visible difference in your life, you are just like the demons. Congratulations. You have a demonic faith. He says it's got to look different. It's got to show an impact in your life. It should make you look different from everybody else at school. It's not just being polite and kind. And we were saying this all weekend. I should be able to drop in on the lives of these young people anytime during their school day and hear them using different language and treating people different than just, and respecting authority better than the majority of the people that are around. I should be able to expect that because that's what faith does. Your faith won't allow you to just go with the flow. Not biblical faith, not living faith, not different faith, and not faith that makes a difference. A few years ago, there was a state tournament of baseball played in Kennett, Missouri, where I was living at the time. And part of the rules for the state tournament is all the teams have to be housed by members of the community. They can't stay in hotels. It's a weird rule, but it was cool. We had a couple of kids from Farmington, Missouri that we housed in our house. They were great, kind people. And they were on the Farmington team, of course, and Kennett was in this tournament. I think it was 10 to 12-year-olds or 12 to 14-year-olds. And Cape Girardeau, if you know that, it's a pretty big town. They had a team, and several other smaller towns. And the Kennett kids got real cocky. We got this tournament. The only ones we're worried about is Cape Girardeau. We're not worried about Farmington. We can whip them anytime. And they were bad talking, trash talking at the only restaurant in Kennett where anybody went, called McCormick's. And they were sitting around the big round table. You know, these kids from Farmington were, and the Kennett kids come in and they're bragging and they're strutting and talking about, we just now beat Cape. There's nobody who can beat us now. We've got this tournament in the bag. Ooh, I hate bragging. I hate arrogant cockiness. That day they played this Farmington group, and Farmington beat them. I know they beat the home team, but boy, I was kind of inside. I was kind of happy about it. And then the next day, it's double elimination. They beat them again. And these kids came in there last night with us, and they're talking about how they beat, but they were very humble about it. The next day, I go to next Sunday, I'm in class with these teenagers, and I say, now let me ask you guys a question. Thinking about baseball here, are you as good as you say you are, or are you only as good as you play in the field? So I'm going to ask you this question. As a Christian believer, are you as good as you say you are at church, or are you only really as good as you play in the field? Which is it? Which really counts? Singing the songs or living the life? Which one counts? This kind of like came up in 2006 when my St. Louis Cardinals, that are really struggling right now, but they were playing the Detroit Tigers in the World Series, and everybody gave Cardinals no chance. On paper, you look at every position, and the Detroit Tigers were better than us everywhere. It was just not even going to be funny, and St. Louis won in 5 games, because the truth is, you don't play the game on paper. You play it out there in the field, and their pitchers couldn't pitch, and they couldn't catch, and they couldn't throw a ball. It was just terrible for them, and that's what proves it. And I'm going to say something to you, and this is really important. I don't know what verses you've memorized. I don't really know what kind of teaching you do or what you know about Scripture, but the truth is this. Your faith, the real you, is what shows up in real life, not what you show me in Bible class or even on Sunday morning. That's where it really matters. And James is saying, listen, you guys put on a good show on Sunday morning, but I'm seeing on Tuesday some wavering in this. One year in Battle of the Youth Groups, and it was a neat thing Crowley's Ridge College put on, we remember because we hated you guys worse than anybody. Your youth group whipped up on everybody. I hated you people. That's one of the hang-ups about coming here to speak, because I hated your youth group, right? Now, I don't mean hated. Yeah, I mean hated. I did not like you. You guys won every year. But anyway, so this one year we came, and I was in charge of putting the young people. What you did was they did these athletic competitions between each other, and you plugged a certain number of your kids into the event that they were good at. And we came to bowling, and I don't know much about, and I don't know our young people. We weren't into bowling in Kennett at that time much. We didn't have any bowlers, and so I said, guys, who of you knows how to bowl? And 2 of them came up and said, we're really good. Great. I put their name down. I put them in the bowling event, and one of them bowled a 36 and another one bowled a 24. And after it was over, I walk up to them and I say, guys, I'm not mad. Batesville whooped you bad, but I'm not mad, but why did you tell me you were good? And they said, we get 300 all the time on the Wii. I love the we, but there's a difference between we and reality, right? And there's a difference between what we say we are and show ourselves to be and what we really live in life. And the goal, James says, is if you really want to gauge yourself, see how your faith is showing up in life. I want to see some differences in people. Invisible faith, faith that you say is there but no one can see it, is kind of like on the verge of flatlining, right? I want to see Christians who are patient at the stoplight. I want to see Christians who, when the order is wrong at Taco Bell, they handle it better than people of the world do. I want to see a difference. I want to see that your temper is being a little better controlled than it used to be at the ballpark when there's a bad call. That's when it matters. That's when it really rubber hits the road, right? That's what we say. Faith that's vibrant and alive will be a veto on certain movies. I really expect today there's certain movies not one Christian I know should go to, because their faith should be a veto power. It's like a pacemaker kicks in. I really want to go to that, but no, I can't do it because my faith is telling me it's off sign, right? So here's the first one. The first sign is your faith useful? Is it benefiting someone else? Tomorrow when you get up, say to yourself, I want my faith, because I believe in God, to actually benefit other people some. And then you say, I want to be a work in process. I want to be a visibly different person than people in the world today. And then there's one last one. It's very unusual. But he goes on to have Abraham and Rahab as the models for this. It begins in verse 20. You want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham, our father, justified by works when he offered up Isaac on the altar? You see, his faith was active along with his works. His faith was completed by his works. The question is your faith complete? And the scripture was fulfilled that said, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God. Your faith has to be complete in the sight of God for it to make a difference, for it to make the difference in your life. What in the world does that mean? Abraham was one of those guys in Hebrews chapter 11, what we call the Hall of Fame of Faith, where it says, by faith, and then it gives a name, and there's a verb. By faith, so-and-so did something, and they all did something different. They were all called to something different. It didn't have much to do necessarily with blessing others or even improving themselves. It was just what God asked them to do. And God asked Abraham to do something that he would never ask anyone else. And it says that your faith would be incomplete without your actions. Do you remember, anybody remember going to school and you had old-fashioned report cards that you brought back on a card, right? And it might say INC. Does anybody remember that? Incomplete. What does that mean? The grade will be given when the work comes in. They may have gotten sick or had an injury, couldn't complete their work, so they give them an extra couple weeks. When the work comes in, we'll give them the grade. And what God is saying to us is your faith is a little incomplete until you do the work I call you to. Now, what kind of work is this? It's a particular action to you, maybe. Some people are called by God to parent special needs kids. I don't know why. I'm not privy to that kind of decision God makes, but some people are called to it, and it may be unfair, and you may look around at everybody else and wonder, it just doesn't seem fair. But listen, that's what God called you to, and He expects you to rise up and be faithful in that. You might have to take care of an aging parent. You might even have a spouse that ends up with Alzheimer's, and you have to do that special care for a number of years to take care of them. It does seem unfair, and it seems so challenging and difficult, but that's what God called you to. And when God calls you to it, He wants you to complete it, and He, through His Spirit, will empower you to do that. Do what God calls you to. You won't be asked to lead people out of slavery in Egypt. You probably won't be asked to build an ark. You probably won't be asked to sacrifice your son, but there were people in history who were, and God judged them based on what He called them to do in their context, and I don't know what yours is. But whatever it is, do it. Second example he gives is Rahab. Interesting case, a prostitute who runs a special kind of inn, right? The spies that Joshua sent in there to check on Jericho, and they're hidden by her. You probably won't be asked to hide spies any more than build an ark or rescue from slavery, any of that stuff. But she responded to it. And she not only became part of Israel, she becomes like the great-great-great-grandmother of Jesus, right? She is rewarded in a very high amount for what she did. Now, I want you to listen to this paragraph, or read this paragraph with me as we look at it, and notice the pronouns. Next screen. Notice the pronouns, and I'm going to ask you some questions about it. She said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us. Is that plural or singular? I'm doing some English with you. Plural. So that all who live in this country who are melting in fear. Who was melting in fear? Okay, come on. You're looking at Scripture right there. This is, you don't even have to turn to it. Who was melting in fear? All, right? Because of you, we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea. That happened 40 years before. They're still afraid of what happened 40 years before. We've heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites. This was very, very recent. East of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you, because the Lord your God is God in heaven above, on earth below. If everybody believed it, why was only one family saved? If everybody knew it, and everybody was fearful, and everybody came to the same conclusion, and apparently they had, why was only Rahab saved? Because she's the only one who lived different because of it. Lots of people believe Lots of people believe in Jesus, but not a lot of people live different because of it. And what we're calling you to do is your faith needs to be different to make a difference. And I'm asking you to take this test every once in a while. If you've passed this test, these 3 questions, next screen, if you've passed these, you look at these and you know what, your answers, and you're the one who can answer them, nobody else can answer them for you. You've got to do some honest introspection for this. If you look at this and you know what, your faith is making a difference in others, great. And it's making a difference in you because you're a project where you're trying to get better and better and more faithful all the time, and you're trying to do what God calls you to in your context. If you've answered well all those, you're in good shape. And listen, take the test every once in a while because we can get lazy. Any of us can get lazy. But maybe you thought you were okay and you look at that and you go, you know what, my answers are not that compelling. I'm feeling like I really need to give some attention to my spiritual life, and you can do that between you and God right there on the pew. You don't need to do anything before this church, but there might be some people, and that's what this youth rally has been for. This youth rally has called people to this, and I hope that some people who came were a little bit weak and need some spiritual attention, and that's what the church is here for. That's what a youth rally is for, to help so that when you leave here, you are ready once again to live a different life and make a difference where you live. And if there's anyone who needs special attention for this, maybe you don't even have a life of faith yet because you've never declared Jesus Lord with your lips and bowed before Him through the immersion in water. You've never done that. So you don't have a spiritual life at all. You need new birth in the first place. This is a great place to be for that. People who will help to introduce you to the Lord and make you a new person in Christ before you ever leave here. But if you have, and these questions have presented a challenge, and you've noticed, you know what, my faith isn't any different than anybody else. I'm not living any kind of different life, and I need the prayers of this church and these people. That's available to you as well. I pray that because of this youth rally or because of this worship service you've been to, on this Sunday morning, you are determined to have a faith that is different so that you can make a difference. And if there's anything that can be done for you right now to help you with that, please make it known to us as we stand, as we sing to it.